What's up, guys? Devil Dog Gamer here. We are playing some World of Tanks in the M4A3E8, or better known as the Easy 8. Now, before we get into the Easy 8 and talking a little bit about it, we're going to talk about World of Tanks. I'm going to be playing World of Tanks this weekend. Going to be live streaming it also. If you don't already have World of Tanks, there's a download code in the description below. Download it. You might get a chance to actually play against me or kill me, more than likely, because I suck at World of Tanks. So I'll be doing that this weekend, so definitely pick it up, get it, play with me, try to take me out, and definitely see you guys on the battlefield Saturday. And they're doing a thing called March to Victory, which actually has some really cool rewards for logging in. Definitely check it out. It makes, you know, the whole process of unlocking tanks and just the daily grind so much better. It's definitely really awesome, so check it out. And we're going to be talking about the Easy 8. The Easy 8 is one of my favorite Shermans, and I have a special place in my heart for Shermans, and that's why I decided to do the video on this. Now, the Easy 8, if it looks familiar, if you've seen the movie Fury, that is the tank that is in Fury. It's not just a Sherman, it was the Easy 8 variant. And it is definitely one of the main tanks in World War II. It actually first saw service in December 1944, and it gained the name Easy 8 during its prototype era because of the E8 ending of the name. So that's how it got the name Easy 8. It wasn't given on the battlefield, it was just during its prototype era. And the Easy 8 actually went on to be one of the main tanks in the Korean conflict, just based off of just how reliable it was and its mobility and the lack of maintenance it needed. It was, you know, the Pershing was a big thing in the Korean conflict, but the Easy 8 was just so reliable that it was always one of the main tanks that they went to. Now, the Easy 8 features a little bit of upgraded armor compared to the Sherman. It's still lacking in the armor because it is a Sherman, but it was definitely an upgraded variant. It also featured an upgraded 76mm gun, and if you're using its HVAP, high velocity armor piercing, it was definitely an effective tank. The Sherman suffered at the start of the war because they were constantly outgunned and outranged, and that's why the Easy 8 variant was put into service and rushed into service, because it was needed on the battlefield. It was so bad with the Shermans that Eisenhower actually told them they don't want any more 75mm Shermans. They're like, we don't need any more. We need more 76mm and above. Like, we need better guns on these things. And that's how this came about. Now, the Sherman, just like in this game, suffers from a few problems. One, it's not as maneuverable, not as fast as some of the other tanks are, but where it makes up for that in its just reliability. Now, World of Tanks doesn't actually, you know, show the reliability, but it's still, you know, in the real world, that's how it was. Now, in World of Tanks, it's a Tier 6. Now, its average penetration with its 76mm is 128mm, and its average damage is 115. Now, it can be outclassed in the Tier 6 area just based off those stats, but at the same time, it's got a lot of pros and cons to it. Now, it has a lot more cons than it does pro, but at the same time, there are a lot of good features for it. Now, one of the big problems with the Sherman was how big it was. Now, I actually got to ride in a Sherman. If you've never seen that video, it's definitely on my channel. I've got to ride in a Sherman, shoot its gun, and the one thing I remember the most about it is how big it was, and that's the biggest problem with the Sherman. It's high profile. This thing stands like a tower, and it is a very big target. Now, that's also pretty good because at the same time, you're higher up from the ground, your turret's high up, the gun depression's pretty good. You can peek over obstacles and fire down pretty easily, which is an important thing in World of Tanks, to be able to actually get over that little edge and get a good shot on your enemy, especially when they don't, you know, when they have the, you know, upper hand or you have to crest a hill. It's an important thing to be able to actually get up there and get your barrel down to get a shot on them. And that's one of the things that the Easy 8 actually does very well. Now, a lot of the other Tier 6s are better class with better armor, better guns. But you, as a medium tank, you have your speed and you have your maneuverability and you have everything else that you need to get through to the battle. But with anything else in World of Tanks, it's all how you play the tank. Now, the Easy 8 has enough gun firepower and enough maneuverability that you could play it as a traditional medium tank and actually push the field and just drive circles around more heavily armored tanks with better guns with your traverse rate and your maneuverability and just lay waste to them. Or you could just sit back and pop them from a distance. It doesn't matter. It's all around a good tank. It definitely has good advantages out there. Now, it actually reminds me of the T-34-85, which I actually play a lot of. I've played a lot of the T-34-85, and it reminds me a lot of using that as a medium tank, but a more taller variant of it. The gun isn't as good as the T-34-85, but it actually, still has that, ability to reach out and touch people. The accuracy is pretty good. The turret traverse is really good. Once you get it fully upgraded, it becomes a good medium tank. When you first start out on it, though, it definitely has some growing pains to it, but it's there and it's good. The biggest thing about it is its armor. Its lack of frontal armor is definitely hampering it in the Tier 6 category, but at the same time, you still have to rely on how tall you are and how big of a target you are. You are a huge target. The Shermans are always the easiest tanks to hit, especially in World of Tanks. They are very, very easy to hit. If you give them a side shot, their chances of missing you are slim to none. I mean, they're going to hit you. It's just such a big target. And, while that is a problem, if you use it correctly to be able to look over these little lips while you're down in a defilade, it can be very advantageous for you. Sorry, I can't speak today. But the EZA is definitely one of my favorite tanks. And while, it does have its growing pains in World of Tanks, you got to look past that sometimes and just enjoy the history a little bit, which is what I do. I like playing the tanks that I know the most about, and I quite enjoy from that era. I mean, even though, there's other tanks out there that can just stomp you like it's their job, it's still fun to play these tanks. And you see here, even with my height, I can still look around quite a bit, especially if I get into this defilade right around there. I can still look all around and cover all the bases from there. And that's exactly how you got to play this tank. Just knowing that you have the gun depression, you have the height, and that you can look down on people from areas that other tanks wouldn't really be able to. And it's actually a nice thing. Now, the Sherman's biggest problem, in my opinion, this is my opinion, real-life biggest problem, was just how it sloped up into the front to give this large profile, and that is where you kept your ammo. Though getting a side shot up to the front area was just a devastating hit to the Sherman, and I think that was the biggest problem. If they would have probably put ammo more towards the rear, I think it probably would have had a little bit more survivability chances. Not saying that the Sherman wasn't able to shrug off some shots. It definitely did shrug off some shots, but at the same time, it was, it constantly ran into problems being outclassed. Almost got that guy right there. See, that's what happens when you get greedy sometimes. World of Tanks isn't about being greedy. It's about, letting people handle exactly what they need to handle and not pushing the envelope before you get team killed. And I can't lead a tank to save my life in this, but it finally got a hit. Now, the EZ-8 is definitely, one of my favorite tanks. And watching, if you watch Fury kind of didn't really give it justice. I mean, it kind of made it look like a rolling death trap when it really wasn't. The EZ-8 was definitely one of those tanks that, when you picture a Sherman, that's what you picture, because, it was just so ingrained, especially in my head, it's so ingrained with anything from the Battle of the Bulge, on in World War II. It was always the EZ-8. You'd always see the EZ-8 around. Or the M4A2-76, those types of tanks. The M4A1 and the M4A2 weren't really, I mean, they were there, but they, to me, it's always, when I picture Sherman, I always picture the EZ-8. And that's the kind of history this tank has. And World of Tanks definitely captured it for me. I feel like I'm playing that little piece of history, and I definitely enjoy it. Now, even though the EZ-8 isn't the best tank to play in this tier, and, every tank has its pro and cons, I definitely feel like, for my play style at least, and for what I like to do with tanks, the EZ-8 definitely has a nice placement, a nice placement in World of Tanks for it. And these guys just not even paying attention. They're like, what's going on? It's craziness, though. EZ-8, man, gotta love it. But anyways, like I said, I'm gonna be playing World of Tanks this weekend. So if you don't have it, definitely download it in the link below. Come on by. I'll be playing all weekend, live streaming and not live streaming, so I'll be on there a lot. I'll be playing all kinds of different tiers, from tier 1 to 10. I'll be trying out all kinds of different stuff and going from there. So if you wanted a chance to kill me, you'll definitely get that chance this weekend. And like I said below, they're doing the March to Victory, which has a bunch of new stuff to it. So if you kind of took a break from World of Tanks and you want to get back into it, now's the time. Definitely gives a lot of bonuses for playing consistently, which is really awesome. I put those details in the description below also. And definitely try out the EZ-8 if you really want to get into some of the awesome Shermans. This is the awesome Sherman to get. It's one of my favorite. It's definitely one of the best Shermans, I think, in World of Tanks. It is an awesome tank. But catch you guys later. Talk to you later. Peace.